So this particular subject has been weighing on my mind for a while. I'm just gonna, get it out there. Men in particular don't end up confused, drained, and second guessing themselves by accident. There's a pattern. And once you actually look at it without lying to yourself, you're going to see it everywhere. Most men don't start broken. They don't start off bitter at the entire system. They don't start closed off. They start out very open. A man starts out believing in something: fairness, reciprocity, effort, meaning, something like that. He believes if he shows up right, that things are going to work out. So when something feels off, he doesn't point outwards at first. He turns inward. What did I do? What did I miss? How do I fix this, And this is where it hooks you, because this looks like growth at first. It looks like, accountability. It looks like being a good man. I've lived there. A lot of men live there. You start adjusting every single thing: your tone, your reactions, your words, and your timing. You start editing yourself in real time just to keep things stable. But here's where you need to wake up, because that stability is never going to come. You fix one thing, something else becomes the problem. You soften your tone. Now you're not assertive enough. You assert yourself. Now you're too aggressive. You become more present. Now you're overbearing. You pull back. Now you're emotionally unavailable. You see it. There's no stable ground. At some point, if you're honest with yourself, you hit a moment. Not emotional, not reactive, a moment of clarity. You ask yourself, what if this isn't really about improving me? What if it's about managing me? And before your brain, tries to escape that thought, this is not just about men versus women. Don't let your mind go just to that reaction. That's very shallow and lazy thinking. That's how people avoid critical thinking. This is about patterns, pattern recognition, a framework in the system, a way of operating that gets rewarded over and over and time again. You see it a lot in certain ultra feminist mindsets. That's very real. But this is bigger than that. This is learned and conditioned behavior. This is conditioning. If you're honest, you've seen it. You felt it. There's a shift. Men don't change because someone explains something well. They change because they experience the same outcome enough times that their brain stops asking the question, why? And starts predicting what's next. Pattern recognition. It's just like touching a very hot stove. You don't do it twice. You don't need someone to come over here and beat your hand for it. You need enough burns. So eventually you stop believing the whole damn story. Because guilt only works under one condition: that you believe you did something wrong. But what happens when you don't believe you did anything wrong? What happens when you look at it honestly and you say to yourself, I didn't do a damn thing wrong. I was told that I did something wrong. And the entire system cracks. When guilt stops working, the system doesn't stop though. It adapts. First it was your behavior. You did something wrong. That's relatively clean. That's kind of fixable. It leaves your persona somewhat without total destruction, somewhat intact. And then it shifts to you are the problem. Now it's an attack on your identity. Now there's nothing to fix. Because it's not about what you did, it's about where you are. Masculinity itself gets labeled as toxic, dangerous, problematic. And if you sit in that long enough, you start questioning your own instincts, your nature, how you're designed, your own presence. And for a while, that manipulation works. You'll shrink yourself. You filter a whole lot. You wear the mask, like Carl Jung says. You perform the version of yourself that won't get attacked. But the truth of the matter is that doesn't last very long. Because you can only tell a man that he's a problem for so long. You can only beat that into his mind for so long before something flips, a switch hits. It's like that dog in the corner that you beat. You keep beating that dog, it's going to bite back. However, sometimes when it bites back, it's not actually just, snapping. When it flips, it's not going to be loud all the time. Sometimes it's quiet. He'll stop fixing himself. He'll start questioning the system in general. And that's where the real shift happens, I guess, and it's where it becomes dangerous for the man. Because since guilt doesn't work anymore, identity doesn't work, so what's left? Chaos and depression, desperation. The system needs you desperate, not angry, not loud, because that's dangerous to them, not to yourself. Not rebellious, of course, because they need you desperate, not willing to fight, desperate. Because a desperate man does desperate things. He will accept things that a calm, presented, maybe stoic man would walk away from instantly. And this is where people need to be brutally honest with themselves. Because most men don't even realize that they're operating from desperation. I didn't. And I was doing it for a very long time. Because it doesn't look like desperation sometimes from the outside. It disguises itself as loyalty, love, responsibility, and what I was taught from a very young age to being a real man, which that is not the case. I ran on this fuel source for the majority of my life. But underneath it all was fear. Fear of mostly being alone, not being enough, extreme fear of being replaced, fear of being nobody. And fear is one of the most efficient things that can be used. Fear, it changes everything. Because it doesn't need force. It doesn't need to force you if you're doing it to yourself. It runs your decisions for you. The fear does. What do desperate men do? They overgive. They tolerate so much disrespect. They stay in unstable situations hoping that they'll become stable. They keep investing even when nothing is going to come back. And the whole time, he has the illusion that he's building something. It's like Sisyphus pushing that boulder constantly up the hill day in and day out. And you just got to start over when you reach the top. You're not building something at all. You're maintaining access. That's it. It's the bottom line. And that same pattern, it's not just in relationships. It's the entire damn system. Look at men and their insecurity with dating apps. It's trash. They're trash. Dating apps are trash. And a man who is fine alone doesn't pay for that bullshit. Partying, going out, spending your money on absolute dog shit, getting drunk all night, the nightlife, the The ferocious machine needs your absolute attention. Luxury itself, the luxury culture needs your anxiety statuses. Self improvement gurus that are on the internet that are absolute terrible people like Andrew Tate need you to feel incomplete so they can grift you harder, so they can lie to you and get you to buy their bullshit. Even your jobs need you unstable just enough to stay, but not enough to leave. This is every single system there is. Not one of them is free from this. The system feels better when you feel like you're not enough. Because desperate men are the ultimate consumers. They comply. They obey. They perform. They wear a mask. But a stoic or calm man, he doesn't play around. This is the real threat. Because when a man sees this clearly, he doesn't explode at things. He goes still. You stop explaining yourself to people who are not willing to listen. You stop pretending and you stop negotiating your identity. This right here is the most dangerous version of a man. Not the angry one. Most definitely not the angry one. The one who doesn't need to perform and shows that they don't need anything from this horrific system. Because a man who still wants approval from people can be directed. He can be redirected. But the person who doesn't, you're outside of the system looking from the outside in. And this is one thing that the system cannot control. So then it starts labeling you. You're broken. You're bitter. You're crazy. You're emotionally unavailable. That's bullshit. You just see clearly. Now here's where you make a decision and you need to choose, because this doesn't automatically make your life better whatsoever. It just makes everything that you're seeing and feeling very real. And the one thing that you need to make a extreme effort not to do is that you don't go cold and bitter. That you don't isolate forever and become closed off. You don't become resentful. You could. Or you could go deeper. Clarity. Self-discipline. Inner peace. And most people don't tell you anything like this. You don't obtain peace by escaping the system. You get peace by removing your codependency and your dependency on it. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you in the first place. You stop performing for rooms and people who don't respect you in the least bit. You stop putting people on pedestals, especially people that don't see you. You stop putting women in particular on pedestals because they're not putting you on a pedestal, so don't put them on one. Stop buying the bullshit the system is feeding you to impress these delusional people, these narcissists who don't give a shit about you anyways. And most importantly, you learn how to sit with yourself. At the end of the day, the only thing that you have is yourself. You wake up with yourself. You go to sleep with your thoughts. You have to be okay, content with this. Not distracted, not numbing out like I used to do all the time, and not escaping. Just you. Because if you can sit with yourself, you'll be content. But if you can't sit with yourself, you will always go back to that thing that hurt you. This is the loop. Breaking it is not always loud. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's very dramatic. Most of the time, it's not some big rebellion. It starts slow, it starts quiet, it's consistent, it's uncomfortable. You just stop participating in the bullshit. Not because you hate the system, but you probably will. But because you see it. And once you see it, you don't really need to fight it as much. You just have to starve it. Just stop feeding it. And for something that depends on your participation, that's probably the closest thing that you're going to get to freedom. So look inward. Ask yourself what your true principles are and what your real values are. What you really want out of this existence in this prison planet that we call life. Don't let these people continue to farm your emotions, these louche farmers, these archons. Don't fall into this trap that the system sets for you time and time again, day in and day out, because it's not going to stop. Because just because you stop it doesn't mean anyone else is going to, so that system will still be there. But once you escape it, you don't have to participate in it anymore. It can't hurt you. Figure out what is meaningful to yourself. Seek that at all costs. Don't get distracted. Learn how to be silent with yourself. Direct your thoughts inward. And you will find some type of stability and inner solace. And hopefully, ultimately, inner peace.